I love American politics, really keen observer of it. In fact, I was in Washington just a few weeks ago talking to people across the aisles about what we can do to build support for Ukraine. But America feels like a deeply, deeply divided nation. It doesn't seem to me like this election is going to pull that nation back together, whatever the result. But I also read some really concerning new polling that is coming out, and it's particularly talking about Gen-Zers. And I think 3 in 10 of Gen-Zers believe that Osama Bin Laden and the attack on the Twin Towers, 9/11, was a force for good. Does that speak to how divided America is?
It really does. It's not a good sign. This is, youth is wasted on the young. I'm afraid that these children essentially are getting their news from TikTok. They're not. They don't get the news from traditional sources like the older generations. And so when so many of them are getting their news from TikTok, and which is most of the time it's just some kid filming themselves in their bedroom and then putting it on TikTok, that's not really news. So they can get away with these really outrageous
mass
views.
murder of American citizens. I mean, it's extraordinary. Anyway, I remember it was my first weeks in my first job actually. No one will ever forget those things.
I was there. I was there on 9/11. So maybe I'm the wrong person to talk to about it. But my children grew up in a generation of the children of 9/11 people. And everyone in their 20s in the U.S., especially on the East Coast, has a friend whose father died on 9/11, and it's really part of the culture. And yet the younger generation, maybe the under 20s, I think I read the 18 to 24s was the polling in the Daily Mail. But this is really troubling, and it also points to what we're doing with our children in the schools. They're not teaching history, so we shouldn't be surprised that a lot of these kids are pro-Hamas or pro-Osama when they're being taught that by these Marxists in the universities that they attend, even the top-tier universities, as we've seen in the last few weeks.
And as someone who was there on the day, though, how does it make you feel to know? I mean, I'm sure you've never been able to get those images out. How do you feel to know that 3 in 10 of your young fellow Americans think that what happened was a good thing?
It's pretty outrageous, and I think hopefully a message will be received that we need to fix the schools, we need to teach history and properly teach history. Right now, all they hear about 9/11 is that the first responders were great, which they were, the police and fire, of course, but there's more to it than that, and they need to be taught. But at least with my children and my friends' children, there are a lot of very proud, patriotic Americans. So 3 in 10, I'm not surprised because of the way they get their news and the way that they're being taught by Marxists in colleges and even high schools. But there is a great and proud generation of kids, and I know a lot of kids that have volunteered to be in the military, young officers right now. So I'm not that worried about it. It's troubling for sure, Jake. There's no doubt about it. That 3 in 10, that's pretty outrageous. But I just don't see that in my experience in the U.S.
Greg.